So, as I said before, my name is Effimia Chatzinikolaou, and I'm a policy coordinator for the IFOAM EU group. And today I will speak for the need for a new seed legislation at European level. For those of you who don't know what IFOAM EU is, it stands for International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, the EU regional group, and it's the European umbrella organization for organic food and farming. We have more than 160 member organizations, and we represent from farmers to processors, traders, researchers, to environmental and consumer advocacy bodies. And our main aim is the adoption of ecologically, socially, and economically sound systems based on the principles of organic agriculture, which is health, ecology, fairness, and care. So the policy context, as it has been said before, very briefly, is that the seed market in the EU is regulated by the EU marketing requirements on plant reproductive material. And this legislation was introduced between the 60s and the 70s and was written mainly for conventional industrial agriculture with highly standardized varieties. And as people said before, the Commission came up with a new proposal in 2013, which was rejected by the Parliament in 2014. And the Commission withdrew the proposal, and from what we know, there is no political will at European level to start to reopen this dossier and take any initiative in introducing something new. So there is a clear need for a new legislation according to our position. We need a new framework which will recognize the diversity of different users and providers of seed and plant propagating material. Under the current framework, the farmers are not allowed to sell or exchange seeds they have bred themselves. Plant varieties must be officially registered, and the administrative and financial burden for registration is very high, which automatically creates a struggle for small-scale breeders. And also the varieties need to comply with the DUS criteria, which were also mentioned before, distinct, uniform, and stable, which excludes organic breeders and to a large extent small-scale breeders, because the main aim for them is the broad genetic diversity to create seeds adaptable to local farming conditions. So we identified two main problems, and we have some solutions that we also try to pass at European level to the European Commission and Parliament. So the first general problem that we see is that the current marketing rules hinder seed diversity, which we find very problematic, because for organic farmers, seed diversity is very important because they are low-input farmers that need resilient systems adapted to the local soil and climatic conditions. So under the current system, the sale of many varieties is prevented. The adaptability to local climatic and farming conditions currently is constantly decreased. The diversity is restricted, and it's clear that uniform varieties are favored based on the standards, whereas less homogeneous open-pollinated varieties and populations are discriminated against. Organic farmers do not have access to suitable varieties, and there is a significant loss of agrobiodiversity and genetic resources. In the last century, we've lost 90% of crop varieties from farmers' fields, and genetic diversity is extremely important for resistance to diseases and plants, for adaptability to the new challenges of climate, and for the future food security of the planet in general. So what we believe that are the solutions towards this direction in this topic is that the agrobiodiversity should be set as a priority at the European level. We should have binding regulations promoting this. It's important to allow traditional and new varieties with broader genetic spectrum to the market, to re-evaluate the uniformity criteria to be adjusted to the type and use of the new plant varieties, to reduce the administrative and financial burden, especially for local seeds and niche varieties, to adapt the rules to open-pollinated and organic varieties, because it's impossible to keep up with the current legislative framework, and very importantly, to implement transparency rules to ensure that farmers and breeders have freedom of choice regarding patents and breeding methods. And this is very important because currently there is also the discussion on the new GMOs and how this might affect the organic sector. The second big problem that we have identified is that there is oligopoly and discrimination against small operators at European level and at the global level also. There is a significant consolidation of the market, as you all know. There are 5 companies that control 75% of the seed varieties, And as you all have heard, China bought Syngenta, Bayer bought Monsanto, so the situation is getting even worse. Farmers are legally prohibited from selling and exchanging seeds. The DUS and VCU tests severely restrict registration and therefore market access for many varieties. And very importantly, the contribution of breeders, farmers and seed savers to the genetic resource pool is ignored. Towards this direction, we want to exclude any varieties that are not protected by intellectual property rights from the registration process. We want to make VCU testing optional for breeders. If big companies want to use it as an added characteristic, it's okay, but small breeders should not take the cost of doing the VCU testing. We want adapted DUS testing for organic varieties and open-pollinated varieties. We want heterogeneous material to be exempted from the obligation of the registration and be allowed by use from organic farmers. And in the sake of transparency, we also want to include the species and varieties names and the place of origin, propagation, region, and production year in the mandatory information, in order for farmers also to be safer when they exchange seeds and to have better guarantees. So overall, we believe that we need to set a new framework at EU level for the seed legislation. The current one is very outdated and it doesn't help. And for the organic sector, we need to also talk about organic plant breeding, which is very important. There is a need to develop this sector. It's very, very small at the moment. There are no correct initiatives to develop it. The European Commission has recently launched some calls and is spending quite a lot, 20 million euros, if I remember well, on developing the sector. And also, we need to promote the use of organic seeds by organic farmers. It's very important and it will be very beneficial for the farmers. So, the advantages of organic plant breeding is that it contributes to the preservation and development of genetic diversity in crops. It offers adaptability to local conditions and low input farming, which leads to increases in yields for such type of farming. And also, it contributes to the preservation of local varieties, their genetic strength and cultural heritage. And very importantly, it recognizes farmers as breeders and it enables participatory plant breeding. So we also advocate for that at the European level. We need to develop that, and under the review of the current organic regulation, they're also discussing of putting an end to the derogations for organic farmers. But in order to do that, we need to develop the sector further. So IFOAM EU believes that it's high time to introduce a new proposal that promotes agricultural biodiversity and meets the varied needs of farmers and different agricultural practices and future food security. Thank you very much.